The Missing Daughter. New Liskeard, Ontario 1996. A teenager decides to walk home alone and is never seen again. Nothing bad seemed to happen in New Liskeard, a small lakeside town in northeastern Ontario, until one September evening in 1996, when Melanie Ethier, a 15-year-old who had recently told her best friend she wanted to become a teacher, went to her friend Ryan Chatwin's house to watch the thriller Sudden Death. Around 1:30 a.m., Ethier said goodnight. On another day, she likely would have called home for a ride, but her house's landline had been cut off. Her family was behind on the bill, so she chose to walk alone. It was roughly a kilometer to her house. According to one unproven witness account, when Ethier crossed a bridge along her route, two men pulled up beside her in a car and, after talking to them, she got in the car and it drove away. The next morning, her mother, Celine, discovered that Ethier never made it home. She reported her missing later that day. The town went on high alert. Police questioned Ethier's friends and relatives. Volunteers combed the area around her route. A search and rescue unit checked the river. No one could find her. Over the following years, police received 700 tips from more than 500 people. Theories abounded that her father had kidnapped her, he wasn't even in town at the time, that she'd been killed by a man named Dennis Livier who, at the time of Ethier's disappearance, was dating her mom's friend. He had allegedly previously assaulted another teen girl, or that it had been white supremacists. Ethier was one of the few black girls in town, yet no suspect was charged. In 2021, an episode of CBC's true crime podcast The Next Call inspired a new witness to come forward. For reasons that police won't disclose, the man pointed them to a wooded area 10 kilometers from Ethier's last known whereabouts, and in October, police searched it with dogs and drones. Still, no answers. Celine accepts that her daughter is dead, but she hasn't given up on finding her body. "Then I feel I'll be able to move on," she has said. "I believe Melanie deserves to be found. She's not just garbage that you throw to the side of the road." The robbery turned deadly. Toronto 1993. The search for the teenagers who shot a beloved store owner. Sukju Ryu immigrated from South Korea to Canada in 1972 with little more than a dream of a new life. With his wife, he raised a family and, about a decade later, opened a new convenience store on the ground floor of a senior's home in the north end of Toronto. The residents and other locals got to know the soft-hearted and hard-working business owner. By the cash register, the linoleum tiles had worn away from the years he'd spent tending to the store. Sometime during the afternoon of February 18, 1993, 56-year-old Ryu closed the store briefly to drive his wife home, as he often did. Shortly after he returned, two teen boys, believed to be 15 and 17, reportedly entered the store with a firearm. Ryu's daughter and police suspect he refused when the teens demanded he hand over his cash. Whatever happened, one of them shot him in the chest and they fled. A few minutes later, a customer found Ryu lying on the floor and called 911. The suspects were last seen boarding a westbound bus, but by the time the police caught up to the vehicle, the teens were gone. Police canvassed the neighborhood, collected evidence from the store, and brought the bus in for forensic examination. But with no solid leads or security footage, and with DNA technology still in its infancy, they couldn't zero in on the killers. In 2021, nearly 30 years after Ryu's murder, Toronto police reopened the case in the hopes of extracting DNA and further evidence from what was collected on scene, hoping that advancements in testing technology might crack the case. The force also promised to create a profile that they can compare to a database of known offenders. Ryu's daughter Elizabeth is still hoping for a breakthrough. "There are moments where I might see someone walking by who looks like my dad and my heart stops," she told media. "And then I realize it's not him."